About this film, Roger Ebert says, as a premise for a thriller, this is a masterstroke. Marjorie Baumgarten of the Austin Chronicle says it's one of the first movies to make young and old alike sit up and notice that there was a brave new world out there. And Letterboxd user David Bates says, I don't think I've ever yelled "oh shit" while watching a movie this many times. Shall we play a game? On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of WarGames.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters. Welcome to Ruined Childhoods. I'm Dan. With me is
and I'm
John.
Oh, I always jump the gun on that.
I need I take a pause and then, give you your, you need to have your moment. You need to have your spotlight.
This is our time.
Yeah, this is our time down here in this basement where I record these.
This is our time. Literally the few minutes per week when we can actually squirrel away the time to record this each episode. But here we are.
It really is. So, John, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I have had a nice little week off from work, and I am excited to talk about WarGames with you, as well as probably many other things, because we tend to kind of go off on little tangents here and there. But you know what? That's all part of it. That's fine.
And and we've got some news, some current events to chat about as well. For instance, the photos that popped up from the allegedly the set of Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley, aka Beverly Hills Cop 4. Right. Pictures that show John Ashton and Judge Reinhold.
Love that.
So perhaps Taggart and Rosewood are back together again. So we talked about Beverly Hills Cop once upon a time. We did an episode on Beverly Hills Cop. We did, right?
Yes, we did.
We absolutely did. And so yeah, I don't know, John, what are you feeling? Like, I feel like we talked at the time, there were like kind of these attempts at like a Beverly Hills Cop series, like TV series, and
right.
I don't know what.
I think that it's, as long as you can get the OG cast of characters back, if we can get Bronson Pinchot in there, I think that it'd be really delightful. It's one of those ones where, because the third isn't very beloved, I feel like coming back for a fourth isn't in any way going to ruin anybody's childhoods, because in effect, the third one kind of took things to maybe too far for some people. I particularly like the third one. I think it's fun. It's something different. But I think that, if you have Eddie Murphy and the the original gang back together, then it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I guess I think for me, it's the question of at what point do I want to see these characters back together again? And then on the other hand, do I just want to see them like chat like on a panel and talking about, so I guess it's kind of like if there's a good reason for them to be back together.
Well, I think about it this way. I imagine that there's also a lot of, opportunity. There's been enough time since the last one where I feel like there is a good chance that you could bring it back in a way that feels all right and feels appropriate. I'm curious to see what they would do with it. I don't know if there are enough questions about the original trilogy that would, I'd really like need to see a panel on it. I don't know. I'm sure that you could learn some interesting things here and there. I think that'd be great to get like Jonathan Banks in there to talk about his experience,
Right. Yeah.
as
I was
a
wondering
young
about
thug.
him.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm curious just to see where things can go from here.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it kind of brings up another question, something I was thinking about, and like just how 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, and I think that's the kind of the answer to my not really a question, but 25, 30 years ago, like that would have been is a big deal when Beverly Hills Cop 3 oh yeah, wow, okay, oh, I can't wait to see
Right.
see pictures from it, and before everything was just all over the internet. But between that and then I feel like it's being made for Netflix.
That's fine.
And it's fine. So it's fine. But I was thinking about it because I was thinking about just like all of these projects that would have been such big news as, to me as a younger moviegoer. And I don't know if it's just because I'm older and have less bandwidth to follow the movie business to the extent that I used to, or if there's just so much like access, like does it feel like less of a big deal that like, oh, okay, great, I can watch this on Prime. I can watch this like long-awaited sequel to something, and like Prey. Prey is a good example. Although on the other hand, I don't know that I feel like the pandemic has kind of still had its impact on moviegoing. At least for me, I haven't been to a movie theater since, and I just keep thinking about how like, oh man, like this would have been like like a sequel to Coming to America. Like that would have been huge. And then it's just like when it can just like drop on Prime, and when I'm like, oh, 12:01 a.m., I can watch the long-awaited sequel to Beverly Hills Cop or Coming to America or whatever. Not just Eddie Murphy movies either.
Right.
I don't know. You get where I'm going.
Yeah. So here's where I sit with that. And this is specifically talking about the long-awaited sequels.
The legacy sequels, I believe, is the term.
So I think that it's important to look at these films as being financial decisions. It's all about like, okay, how can we, make up this, part of our budget for this year? Like, how can we make sure that we are, making enough money to be able to sustain ourselves? And honestly, it's a really shitty reason, and I wish it wasn't true, but that's how these decisions are made. That's why we have all of the, Jurassic World movies. It's why we get all of the Marvel everythings, is because they're great financial decisions. And when you attach, high quality performers and filmmakers to them, it definitely helps them achieve their financial goals. And if the filmmaker can at the same time get something of high quality in there, then that's also a different story. But I think that's also why we don't, it's really important to be looking also at the, what's happening in independent film. And when I say independent film, I also recognize that a lot of these more independent distributors or production companies are maybe owned by some of the bigger ones, but they're able to do a lot more, take a lot more risks because they're not spending as much on these films themselves. And so there's the ability to kind of make something maybe that's more fresh, or to do a follow up on a movie that maybe isn't a huge blockbuster success, while doing it still creatively. And I think that when it comes to something like Beverly Hills Cop 4, that's kind of a, Eddie Murphy, we did Coming to America, the number 2, and that fulfilled a certain subscriber number quota, and there were this many viewers and so on and so forth. Then you can say, all right, well, that can be done again with another one of these properties that is tested and proven. And I don't know. I think that it's the kind of thing where that to me isn't a movie where I'm going to necessarily get excited about it. But it is something, it's like a little new piece of candy. It's a shiny new toy. And it's just something to enjoy while you're kind of not really paying much attention. But when you have an opportunity to see something that is of higher quality, something maybe more on the independent side of things, even if it does go straight to streaming, that's the one that's maybe more that, something that you'd want to pay more attention to.
Well, and it's like, yeah, that's the flip side to it, is that, streaming allows so many more people that'll watch a movie like a Nomadland or Power of the Dog. They can watch it on Netflix, or Hulu, and more people probably saw films like that because they were, especially something like Power of the Dog, which was streaming when it was in the theater.
Sure.
Which is, I feel like that's the model. And I don't know, like, I've spoken before about my nostalgia for especially like summer movies and going to see movies that are like unforgettable. And if you look at like old, like the movies of summers past, I have a friend who on Instagram will every now and again post, like, he'll find digitized versions of like the movie pages from his hometown newspaper of when when he was a kid in the early 80s. So he'll post pictures of it, and it's, first of all, it's so much fun to see like the ads, especially
so exciting.
Yeah, and because I remember like looking at the paper, just like, oh shit, this is this movie that was coming out. Oh, where is it playing? And oh man, do I have to like go all the way up to Montclair to see it? So anyway, my point is, the independent films are really where you're seeing a lot more originality and a lot less of these like legacy films that you said are financial decisions. And I'm sure that the success of Top Gun Maverick didn't hurt the chances of legacy sequels getting greenlit. So
No. And I know that also Top Gun Maverick very intentionally, put off its release for a long time in order to ensure that it would have a successful theatrical release and not go straight to streaming, because in the production's view, it was necessary to be seen on the big screen. And I think that when you do have somebody like Tom Cruise behind it, you have the ability to make that kind of a decision.
Right. And that brings up another interesting point. And I know, we'll definitely get to WarGames, but I feel like the role of the star is so much different these days. Like, I feel like, and I haven't seen Top Gun Maverick, but from what I know about it, you probably could have made the same movie without it having anything to do with Top Gun. But I think whereas like the original Top Gun, like, it was Tom Cruise's star power that brought people in to see him. I don't think as many people, I mean, probably older fans, people who old enough
Sure.
to see the original, but I think you know, a lot of your audience for Top Gun Maverick were probably people who were just like, oh, I heard that there are some like cool as shit sequences that you got to see in the theater, and that is just like, it's worth going to the theater to see.
Just to add to that, as a casual observer of TikTok, I know that there is definitely a lot of I wouldn't call it hysteria, but there was a moment made of like Miles Teller. Like people seem to really just figure out who Miles Teller was when Top Gun Maverick came out.
They did not see Whiplash.
No, but that's not their kind of movie. The movie where there's a guy taking his shirt off is maybe their type of movie. And
Did J.K.
you know,
Simmons not take his shirt off in Whiplash?
no,
I
he
making
takes
that up?
he throws a chair at him.
Oh, yeah. I often mistake the two.
So I think that there's a lot that goes into viral marketing and you know, people sharing clips from trailers and things like that, and then the system kind of feeds itself. I think that there's something similar going on with the marketing, and I don't want to say that this is, I'm not saying there's a conspiracy going on with the movie Don't Worry, Darling.
Oh, wow.
But
yeah.
I know that, you know, the social media frenzy behind that movie, and not even at all about what the movie is or anything, but just about the cast and the director of the movie going into it, it's just complete madness. And it almost feels like this is the greatest publicity stunt ever in order to get people to want to watch this movie so that they can be watching and looking for coded messages. But
it feels like, and my wrestling fans are gonna know what I'm gonna say here. It totally feels like a work. It totally feels like it might be a work shoot, meaning like there might be some legitimacy around it, like, you know, Florence Pugh getting a little pissed off that like her director and co-star are like sneaking off together.
Well, there's way more to it than that.
I'm sure. I know. I'm sure there. I only read like, I basically clicked on a Time Magazine tweet. It was like, what do you need to know about the Don't Worry? And I was like, well, I don't need to know anything about it, but I'm curious.
So let me tell you what's happened even within the past week that's kind of fed into
I know
this.
about the spit thing.
Well, the spit thing is just this weird, nothing happened, but
Just give me a synopsis.
Oh, no. I mean, you know, the thing is, the movie's premiering at Venice, and absolutely every move that every single person in the cast and Olivia Wilde, I'll include, who's cast and director, every single move that they make, where the people are standing, who's around for what, all of those things are being speculated upon by people on social media with a very investigative eye. And you know, you need to post something, so you're looking for whatever you can possibly find. Meanwhile, you also have the whole situation behind Olivia Wilde and her, you know, relationship status with Jason Sudeikis, then with Harry Styles, and maybe with Florence Pugh and Zach Braff breaking up, and all of this nonsense. Meanwhile, you have Nick Kroll and Chris Pine just there, which is wonderful, and they're delightful.
Right.
So, yeah.
Nick Kroll. Come on.
Yeah.
That's
so
great.
I don't know. I think that the whole thing is. And then there's also been this whole new thing about. You know, how Shia LaBeouf was originally going to be cast, but Florence Pugh wasn't comfortable with him, and Olivia Wilde trying to get, you know, Shia LaBeouf, and this whole other, and denying it, and blah, 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 blah. Like, all this other stuff.
Like talking shit about Florence Pugh behind, or like kind of being
totally.
catty.
Absolutely.
I mean, look, I know very little, and I don't feel like I need to pick a side, but I gotta say I'm on Team Pugh here.
Look, Team Pugh all day, every day.
Yes.
But it's one of those things where it's like, if this was all a marketing stunt, then it's the most brilliant marketing stunt ever. And it, like, thinking about it makes me think of movies like Wag the Dog, and where it's just like setting up all of these fake scenarios in order to make something else happen. And so,
right. Yeah. It would be a very like savvy decision to say, like, all right, we're gonna turn this into a work. We're gonna build up,
it's absolutely
more people will see the movie because of this.
100%. And that's, the way, and that's, this is a movie that, people would see it probably because of the casting in general, but now there's maybe people who are going to see it more than once, or people who are going to purchase it when it's out on Blu-ray or whatever. I don't know. It's
depends on how naked Harry Styles gets, I think.
And if people still even have Blu-ray players.
Yeah, true. That might have been, by the time this episode releases, Blu-ray players may be a thing of yesterday. 4K.
It's gone the way of the Queen, if it were.
Oh man. Yeah. So that's other current events. And then so also I saw that Disney just like announced a whole slate of,
I didn't even look.
Like prequel. We got a Mufasa movie. We got the live action Little Mermaid. We've got an Inside Out 2. I'm waiting.
Inside Out 2, I'd be psyched for.
I'm interested in that. You know what I discovered? I discovered that the high school students that I teach, who in 2015 when this came out, would have been younger, of course,
right?
But like they don't like Inside Out.
Really?
They're not into it. No, they don't. They're not down with it. We did one of those, like, all right, like here's 4 of them, like one's got to go. And it was like Pixar movies, and like a lot of them picked Inside Out. And I was like, are you crazy?
Movie's so good.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So Disney is just going, and Pinocchio, this is another one of those movies that like this would have been huge. This like full page ad in the Star Ledger on Friday when it comes out. Robert Zemeckis making a live action remake of Pinocchio with Tom Hanks, who like I guess just spent the last couple of years in prosthetics. So John and I both watched Baz Luhrmann's Elvis recently.
Right, which went onto HBO shortly after being released theatrically. So just the way that, just like what we were talking about before, it's these money moves to get more people to, I don't know. I'm sure that HBO, well,
I guess there's more money in subscriptions, maybe more money in subscriptions than ticket sales. I don't know. Anyway, Baz Luhrmann's Elvis is Baz Luhrmann's Elvis. That is what it is. So you know what if you've heard of Baz Luhrmann and you're familiar with his work, you know what you're getting into. So Disney is just mining the archives there.
Yeah, so just to kind of touch on the Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, all of the everything.
Predator.
What's that?
Predator. Yeah,
they own
that's
Predator?
Fox.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Oh, because of Fox, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So here's where I am right now with Marvel. I feel like I've seen a couple of the movies after like the Avengers saga has kind of come to a close, and now they're kind of doing, like I went and I saw Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and I went and I saw one of the other ones I can't remember, but I feel like I'm just kind of Spider-Man's a different story. Spider-Man kind of lives in its own world, but
many worlds if you're familiar.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But I am just kind of done with those. I watched a few episodes of She-Hulk, which is fine. I like Tatiana Maslany. She's good. So, but it's just like, I think I'm okay. I think I'm good now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've been there for a while. I always have some curiosity around the Marvel movies, but I think since Infinity War, I think that was the one that really killed it for me, because at a
You
certain
stopped before Endgame?
I mean, yeah, I watched Endgame on a plane.
Okay.
And I liked it. But Infinity War, at a certain point, I felt like I left the movie theater and I was like, I feel like I just sat there for 3 hours of sound effects and colors flashing and things going whoosh and boom, and I did not give a shit.
There was some interesting stuff. I don't know.
I did not give a shit.
That's fine.
But
yeah.
Anyway, I mean that's me. I've always been more of a DC person, so it's kind of unfortunate that the DC movies, by and large, just it's like, just stop. I'm just like, as a DC fan, I'm like, I want you to just stop doing. You don't have to do it. Not everything needs to be a universe,
right?
Like every 30 years or so, do a Superman, do a Batman. Like, maybe it's just I'm a cranky old man and that's the way I grew up, was, you'd get a superhero movie every 10 or so years, and you got excited for it and you liked it. So
I guess that's our way of saying they don't make them like they used to, much like 1983's WarGames.
Man, yeah, they sure don't make them like WarGames anymore.
Yeah. Before we actually launch into it, I want to just let everybody know that if you want to reach out to us, we have a link in this episode's description with our link tree that'll show you all of the different ways that you can get in touch with us. Email us, ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com, because we'd love to hear your thoughts about all of the stuff that we're talking about. And we usually mention this at the end of the episode, but in case you don't get there, like, that's all the information. And just want to get it out there, as early as possible.
In case you only clicked download to listen to us banter at the beginning and not to actually hear about WarGames.
No, and I'm excited to talk about WarGames. WarGames rules.
As am I. WarGames is a great movie. So, John, why don't we dive into it? Do you want to just synopsize away?
I would love to.
Greetings. Yesterday's game was interrupted, although primary goal has not yet been achieved. Solution is near. Game time elapsed 31 hours, 12 minutes, 50 seconds. Estimated time remaining 52 hours, 17 minutes, 10 seconds.
What is the primary goal?
To win the game.
In an effort to get a sneak peek at a video game company's upcoming releases, high schooler David Lightman attempts to hack into the company's server from his bedroom, but instead, David not only hacks into a NORAD system designed to simulate and carry out actual war scenarios, but he accidentally initiates one of its protocols, nearly triggering World War III. Now under suspicion that he's a Soviet operative, David is taken in by the FBI and questioned. But what David discovered is that the technology he hacked into won't quit until it wins by following through on its objectives. David, with help of his sweetheart Jennifer, tracks down Dr. Falcon, the designer of the AI, to help end its reign of chaos. So Matthew Broderick plays David. Dabney Coleman is Dr. Jack McKittrick. He's a government dude who's he wants to go all in on this. It's called Whopper, this machine called Whopper that was developed by Dr. Stephen Falcon, played by John Wood, to essentially be the one to carry out these missile launches when humans, clam up.
Yeah, well, there's a whole scenario that they play through in the beginning, and a young Michael Madsen and a relatively young John Spencer in a scene where it's a drill, and they're both supposed to turn their keys to launch the missile, and John Spencer just doesn't have it in him.
Yeah. It's intense. It's really intense. We have Ali Sheedy as Jennifer, and let's see, who else do we have in here? That pretty much covers the
Barry Corbin. Or Barry
yeah,
Corbin.
but I'm just thinking about the more recognizable people.
You get a glimpse of William H. Macy.
That's right. Oh my God, didn't even
It's like with the
register.
field trip.
Yeah,
The NORAD field trip.
that's right. And also, I want to point out that somebody who we've mentioned a few times in here, Eddie Deason, is in the movie as Malvin.
Yes,
just this kind of like computer nerdy guy who kind of gives David a bit of a hint to decoding something.
Yes, Eddie Deason, who you might remember as Eugene in Grease, among other roles.
In Grease too,
and both Greases. Yeah. He's featured more in the original, but that's for a Grease episode, which we have done. So
yes, it's happened.
Yes.
And I got to say, I actually just the other day watched another Matthew Broderick classic, Election, and I was like, man, he's such a baby in this. And then I'm just like, but in WarGames, he was like a child.
This was his screen debut.
Amazing.
His first movie, WarGames, and so he would go on to have quite a career. And John Hughes, especially him and Ali Sheedy.
Yeah.
And I don't think this was Ali Sheedy's screen debut. Directed by John Badham. John Badham made
right
some of the most fun popcorn movies. He made a movie I really like called The Hard Way, which it stars James Woods, which
I was gonna say, isn't that James Woods?
I haven't been able to watch it in a long time because I'm So Ali Sheedy was also in
Bad Boys.
Bad Boys, not
the Sean Penn one.
Yeah, the Sean Penn, not Will Smith. Though they both like hitting.
Well, which one came out first is the question.
Bad Boys.
Okay.
Bad Boys came out first. Oh, you know who else is in the cast that
whoa,
deserves a mention?
Hold on one second. I want to point out that John Badham also did Saturday Night Fever and Stakeout and Short Circuit, which was our
Blue
first
Thunder?
episode.
I think he
Yes,
did.
yes.
Blue Thunder's another great one that he did. I remember a lot of his movies, it would, instead of it saying a John Badham film, it would say a John Badham movie. And I always got the impression, it's like, he doesn't take himself too seriously. Of course, WarGames, it says a John Badham film. So,
there you go.
Also in the cast who deserves some mention, James Tolkan, who you would recognize as Mr. Strickland from Back to the Future. Yes.
Man,
so also Loomis in Masters of the Universe. How could I neglect mentioning that? So WarGames. And this was this is just one of those big movies of the 80s, and I remember long before seeing it, I knew what it was, and the whole the premise of would you like to play a game?
Right, and shall we play a game?
Shall we play a game? Yeah.
Well, also, this movie actually encouraged cybersecurity laws to be made. This movie actually enacted global change, which is pretty wild. And it's if not the first, definitely one of the first movies to handle computer hacking. I feel like there's this scene that takes place in David's bedroom where he's showing Jennifer how this system works to dial into these systems using a phone line. And I don't know, he explains how it does what it does. And, at the time there, of course there wasn't security for this kind of a thing. You had to know a phone number and maybe some login information, but with the right tools, you can figure all that stuff out.
Yeah. So This movie was responsible for the Counterfeit Access Device and Computer Fraud and Abuse Act of 1984. And Ronald Reagan, the president at the time, watched the movie with members of Congress and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And it's apparently he's also a family friend of one of the screenwriters, Lawrence Lasker. And these screenwriters, Lawrence Lasker and Walter F. Parks, also wrote another great film about hacking and hacking into government systems, Sneakers.
Oh, they did Sneakers.
Yeah. So, so a very right. This movie really did inspire a lot of change, and even I feel like most people think of it as a popcorn film. It did get nominated for 3 Academy Awards, including cinematography and screenplay.
Yeah,
so not too shabby.
Not too shabby at all.
For WarGames.
Yeah, it's really it is a lot of fun, but there's. What's up?
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I have one question about a scene in a movie and just your take on it, but go ahead.
Oh, no. Yeah. I was just going to say that, yes, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of things about it where it's just like, how would he know to do that? Like there are certain things that are just like a little, of course, questionable, but you just kind of accept it. And I feel like there's a lot about it that, I don't know. It's like, yeah, I could see this kind of a thing happening. And I'm thinking more about like a system like Whopper, where it's just like taking the human element out of it and, this system that's kind of creating these scenarios. But I mean, I feel like we're ways off from this kind of thing actually happening. I'm sure that it happens in a lot of ways, maybe for sure, definitely like simulations and stuff, but not to the extent that Whopper is doing it.
Yeah. I mean, hey, we don't know. We don't know what's happened and what we found out about. What's interesting about this movie, I have to bring it up because there's just one scene that feels so out of place.
Okay.
It feels like a scene from Better Off Dead. And I'm talking about this very brief scene between David's parents, the Lightmans, as they are sitting down for dinner and sit down to eat corn. Corn on the cob. True. And the corn, there's this whole exchange about the corn not being cooked, and that it's being raw made it more crisp. I was like, what is this scene doing in this movie? Like, why does
Yeah, that was pretty strange. Yeah, I guess did I miss something? It happened so early in the movie that I think that I kind of like forgot about it at a certain point. But yeah, you're right. That's definitely a head scratcher there.
It's not like this like comes back.
No. I'm
sure
there was a lot that was cut from this movie. I mean, we don't really see his parents ever again.
Right. Yeah. It's
despite the fact that he is taken by the FBI and completely missing, you think that his parents might be concerned?
Maybe there's a whole plot. You know what it is? They kind of remind me of the parents, Malcolm McDowell's parents in Clockwork Orange, who they're just kind of like sitting at the kitchen table, and it's like, oh yeah, he said he's got a headache, he's not going to school. I wonder what it is he gets up to at night. Oh, I think he just goes around and helps people.
Yeah, right.
Doing like odd jobs for them, and
yeah.
So I wonder, I wonder if there were some scenes.
Oh, you know what? There is one other time that we see the dad, and that's when Jennifer comes over and the dad like lets her into the house and asks her about a crossword question.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But it's like a very brief Very, very brief thing.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's just like these parents are just total space cadets that they're just not paying attention to what's going on with their son at all. Oh, and there's I
that
guess
makes sense.
that's the same scene where he's having the dinner. Is it? Maybe it's not. I'm thinking about when he gets his report card and his mom's like really excited and they tell him that.
Because he passed all his classes.
Well, yeah, because he hacked into the system and changed his grades.
Right. Yeah. Which is it's funny. It's an IMDb trivia moment where it's Matthew Broderick playing a character who's hacking into the school's computer system as he does in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Right. Well, if you're good at it.
It's like, man, yeah, when you needed someone to hack into something, Matthew
Broderick's your guy.
Yeah. We need a mischievous teenager.
I feel like I enjoyed the movie more on this viewing than I have in the past. Some of it might be the fact that, Dan, we live in the Pacific Northwest now. I don't think that I saw it while living in the Pacific Northwest. So there was definitely a quality where it's like, it takes place mostly around Seattle. They do go to Denver for, NORAD activity. But then it's also
I think all of that was still filmed in Oregon and Washington.
I know that a lot of it was filmed in Los Angeles as well, but there was definitely a lot that was filmed in various parts of Washington.
They go to Snohomish High School.
Right. Dan, oh man, now I need to go back and, because I found out some interesting information. Do you know who went to high school there?
At Snohomish High School?
Yeah, which in the movie, it's not the actual high school, but do you know?
It says it on the school when they walk up.
It does say it on the school, but that's not, it's actually just filmed in Los Angeles. But do you know who went there?
No.
Model and internet celebrity Chrissy Teigen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought I remembered hearing something like she was from around here.
Yeah. So that's a person. Looking at the IMDb page for that that high school, and all of the other notable people that went there were in sports. NFL people, MLB, sportscasters.
Olympic athletes, probably.
What's that?
Some Olympians.
I don't see any Olympians. I'm seeing just
I guess
MLB.
they would live in Olympia.
Right, MLB, NBA.
Little Washington State
NFL,
humor for you.
NASCAR.
Okay. All right.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's okay. It's, celebrities from the greater Seattle area. We'd be here all day.
Yeah, so let's see. This takes place northeast of Seattle. Yeah.
Yep. Makes perfect sense. That's where these things happen.
Yeah.
Big hacker community up there. There probably is, but
yeah. So, I think that just being in this geographical area helps you pay attention a little bit more when you hear about things going on in the state where you live. It's just like you just listen a little bit harder, I guess.
Yeah, well, especially when it's not a place where that's a common setting.
No. Yeah.
Right. It's not New York or LA.
Yeah, totally. No, it totally works that it's kind of outside of a, different tier of, urban metropolitan area. Always kind of makes it a little bit more interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I just really, really enjoyed it. Dan, do you remember your first time seeing this movie?
I don't. No.
It was just one of those that was just kind of always around.
At some point I saw it.
Yeah.
I don't remember how. I don't remember why. Don't remember where. Don't remember when. I know this is very unlike me. But yeah, I saw it at some point and then I watched it again recently. to talk about it. And like, it's one of those movies that I remember liking, but just feeling, oh yeah, this is a good one. Like, oh, I need something, like, what's on while I'm folding laundry? WarGames. Okay, I'll put that on in the background.
And I feel like I appreciated it more now than I have, because I don't know the last time I watched it, but knowing more about the Cold War and knowing more about, the fears of Russian spies and what people were potentially capable of, gave it a little bit of extra weight for me, thinking that this kid could potentially be a Soviet operative, as having seen The Americans, and the way, I know that that's just another piece of, historical fiction, but it comes from a place, it's well educated, in its writing, and those are the kind of things that did happen. And,
well, you think about, there's a lot of film in the 80s really approach that. And if you think about it, like, really through the mid to late 80s, there was still that fear that one day someone in Moscow was just going to decide, all right, today's the day we end it. I mean, and it was a big topic of everything from WarGames to Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. There was another film that popped into my head that I completely forgot about. Oh, Little Nikita. River Phoenix finds out his parents are similar to the Americans.
Sure. Yeah.
So it was a big thing, but this movie really approached it from that. Like, I felt that this movie really approached it like from an entertainment perspective, but also from a warning perspective, of course, because of the resolution of Whopper's or Joshua, the computer's, finding, which is, very, not very subtle. The only way to win is not to play.
Right. What's also interesting? I listened to this podcast series called Wind of Change, where they investigate the alleged story that the Scorpions song Wind of Change was written by the US government to promote the idea of just general like peace and like the Berlin Wall coming down,
democracy in Eastern Europe.
Exactly. There was some investigation in there that talked about, even if this is just a story that somebody made up, there are real situations in which the CIA has infiltrated pop culture in order to push an agenda. And like Nina Simone was kind of somebody who was used in this way. And so these types of things...
Back to Wag the Dog.
Wag the Dog, exactly.
Good old shoe.
Yeah. So there are actual real cases in which like pop culture has been manipulated in order to enact change, and kind of makes you watch things a little bit differently and make you wonder, like, was WarGames partially written in order to create cybersecurity laws at a time when, nobody knew what that was. So you write a movie that lays it all out for you and you get it in front of the president. And, it's like, and that kind of a thing. So it's like, I'm not throwing out conspiracy theories, but I'm just saying that, like, those things did happen and you kind of just have to wonder sometimes.
Yeah. It's really, I just keep thinking about, I'm like, if the U.S. government wrote Winds of Change, That's a story I would love to see. I would like, who did they hire to write it?
Well, you got to listen to the podcast. Okay. Here's what I'll say about this podcast. It is very fascinating to listen to. However, the way that the host says CIA will get on your nerves, and also the host always refers to the band Scorpions as the Scorpions.
I knew you
and
were
that is
gonna say
not
that.
their name, and that is not their name.
Oh, how are you doing a podcast? All right. Well,
I don't
anyway,
know.
I don't know. Sometimes I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. So I guess I cannot throw stones in my glass house.
Well,
Yeah.
Then let's talk a little bit more about what's going on in your mind. What would you do to bring such a thing back? And I will say there have been video games that came out that were, tie-ins to the movie.
Okay. So, first of all, I should also make the point that in the novel Ready Player One, so in the novel Ready Player One, there's a whole sequence where the main character has to reenact war games. Because it was a favorite movie of War Games has a big influence on Ready Player One, and I say the book because the movie is an abomination. In the movie, it's changed to The Shining, which I think I feel like the reasoning for that is that it was like Warner Brothers and the rights and all that, but it still doesn't make sense because Ready Player One was a movie geared more towards young audiences. And why would you not use The Goonies, which Steven Spielberg produced, so on and so forth. So it's another one I could go on about, is all the bad decisions made in adapting Ready Player One. But so War Games featured heavily in the book. I do think that because of the relevance of it, like cybersecurity, even though things have evolved in terms of technology, cybersecurity is still a very real thing, and I think more of a danger. I feel like it's more accessible. You've got more hackers out there, and we've all read about the bot farms and things like that. So I think that having that a remake of War Games, and I think it would have to be a loose, not in terms of the story, but loose in terms of the circumstances. You're not having someone who's seeing a magazine ad for new video games, like trying to get a sneak peek at like Double Dribble. It's evolved, so I don't know what the details would be, what the specifics would be, but similar, same concept of a a computer savvy kid who accidentally hacks it. And the funny thing is, actually trying to hack into a game, like a game manufacturer's website and trying to get a sneak peek at a new game actually isn't that unrealistic.
No, not at all.
So it's actually still very, very relevant. So I would just have I would update this, and I think most of all, it really, I don't normally advocate for a remake just to diversify the cast, but I would remake this movie and diversify the cast.
Sure. Okay.
It doesn't need to be the main character doesn't have to be male, doesn't have to be white, doesn't the main character, that's the great thing. It's open to, it's really open. It's a movie that you could remake, and I think you could remake, with honoring and respecting the source material, but you don't have to stick to any of the specifics, really.
Yeah.
You're just following the same plot
Would
plot
you
outline.
set it present day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I think I would. I wouldn't set it. I wouldn't do the 80s. I would either set it present day or maybe like early 2000s.
Okay.
So 20 years ago, and that's to say 20 years ago, and we're talking about early 2000s. That's weird, but
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah. I said it early 2000s, maybe have like, great soundtrack with like the Strokes and the White Stripes, and the Hives. But yeah, that's, I don't really have any other specifics. I can't really think of who I would cast, because who I would cast in this are probably actors whose names I don't know. Who would have been a good David? He might be too old now. We talked about him recently. His name is Skylar Gismondo.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah, because I watched some Santa Clarita Diet. I was familiar with him from Righteous Gemstones. But then I watched some Santa
Clarita Diet, Booksmart, Licorice Pizza. He's great.
He would like. I don't know how you feel about about him being maybe a little too old for the part, but and of
he's
course
just too good as a teenager.
He's also that's also not really like, let's diversify the cast.
I know.
And, yeah. But that's kind of what I'm thinking, is like, it would be fun to, and like, I don't want to see a legacy sequel. I don't want to see like WarGames The Return and like, drag out like Matthew Broderick and Dabney Coleman and Ali Sheedy. I don't need to see. I don't want to say, oh yes, we've got this problem, and David Lightman, remember him? He's the only one who can solve this problem. So let's get him. I just kind of want to see a straight up like WarGames remake. It would almost be like the RoboCop remake, but hopefully better received. But the RoboCop remake took a lot of liberties, changed a lot of things, but followed the same basic story arc.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. John, what say you?
All right, Dan. So I've noticed that a lot of times when you are doing your thought experiment first, you, on occasion, and I'd say it's probably more often than not, say, I don't want to see blank. And then my idea is that blank. And then I somehow get you most of the time to come around on the idea a little bit. So allow me to do that just a tad. So,
Okay.
All right. It is present day. David Lightman is the head of cybersecurity for the government. I don't know. I'm for the Defense Department. I don't know exactly what the specifics are. He is about to retire and there's nobody that he has on staff who could even remotely come close to being, where he is in his level of cybersecurity knowledge. So he initiates the Whopper protocol, in which this is part The Last Starfighter. I'd say that there's elements of a lot of different things, but what he essentially does is he creates a scenario where a group of people, that's a group of hackers out there, would be enticed to do some hacking, not knowing that it is, routing towards the government, and they themselves get into some sort of scenario where they are auditioning for this position, essentially, by kind of going through a WarGames scenario.
Wow, never have I jumped so quickly in my mind from Live Free or Die Hard to Willy Wonka.
Those were the two other movies that I was thinking of. Live Free or Die Hard and Willy Wonka. Absolutely, yes. Yeah. So there you have it.
So we're like David's basically the Falcon.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's a completely signed off on and approved situation. But of course, there's going to be an element to it where something actually does happen and it goes awry, and Lightman has to work with maybe this entire group of hackers who are in the running for this to put an end to it.
Maybe one of those hackers was a spy.
Maybe
he was an operative for another government. Who knows?
Interesting how you said he.
Oh, well,
Dan.
No, you called me out on it.
Dan.
Sorry. My woke card is revoked.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe just because I'm still thinking of Live Free or Die Hard. So
here's what I want to see. We all want to see Matthew Broderick in his tiny circular glasses with maybe a big beard. Something where he's just like, he's still got his vivacious personality from 1983. But, we're 40 years later. He's at that age where it's time to move out to Vista Del Mar and put on the Tommy Bahama.
Enjoy a nice retirement.
Yeah.
I think that like in terms of a legacy sequel for WarGames, that's how I would do it. Or that's like, I can't think of a better way to do a legacy sequel for WarGames. And that sounds interesting. And then you get, you introduce your hot young cast, your Miles Teller, whatever he can hack with.
Miles Teller is going nowhere near this.
No, yeah,
no.
Heard some things.
No, I don't care for the man. Miles Teller, if you're listening, shoot me an email. We can talk it out. But
we can work this out. Miles Teller, if you want to, clear the air, you're more than welcome to come on. But yeah, we might throw a chair.
I know there's going to be a naysayer who disagrees with the entire idea, who tries to sabotage it. I'm thinking like a Peter McNichol type.
Oh, really? I was just thinking Sarah Jessica Parker because I think they're a package deal now. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
kidding.
I'm trying to find a place for her in this. She could be one of the hackers. Why not?
Let her
What's
be
up?
the president. Oh, she could be one of the hackers. Yeah. Oh, interesting. And you know what? There I go again. Strike two, because here I was thinking just younger hackers, but why wouldn't you have
ageist, Dan?
I know. Oh, what is wrong with me? Man, I'm questioning everything now. But okay, I'm thinking of this idea, and I'm like, yeah, I'm imagining if I saw the trailer for it, would I be rolling my eyes, or would I be thinking like, oh, okay, all right.
Well, okay, just to kind of go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
I just watched Jurassic World Dominion because it is streaming on Peacock, which I had signed up for, and it was very eye-rolly in the way that it would introduce or like reintroduce our Jurassic Park characters. Right. And we have Laura Dern doing a lot of like Jurassic Park callback moves that are very cringy. And it's like that is such a, I don't even know if you'd call it fan service, because I don't think that a fan really cares enough to see them doing an impression of themselves from the early 90s.
But that's exactly, I mean, that's what it is. That's how I felt a lot watching Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Uh-huh.
I felt a lot during that, like a nudge, wink.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Well-
yeah, I heard Tashi Station closed down.
Well, I think that there's also a large element of the marketability of these movies to make you consciously be looking for Easter eggs.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's like that is part of the movie experience, is finding all of the Easter eggs, which takes the fun out of the movie itself, because if you're just trying to watch it just to watch it, then it's distracting.
I agree.
Thanks.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. No, I felt that way. It's just like it takes away from movies. And I guess also recently, especially with the passing of Wolfgang Petersen, and thinking about the types of movies he made that were like summer blockbusters, but were like in the Line of Fire and Air Force One.
Dan, something that I was thinking of mentioning earlier, and then we just started talking about something else. Here's some information for our listeners. Dan and I are regular players of the game Wordle. And Dan, I don't know if you play any of the other Wordle-like games where it's like once a day, try to figure out this kind of a thing. But there's one that I do called Framed. It's framed.wtf. And it shows you stills from movies, and you have like 6 chances or whatever to get the movie. And you go on, it shows you a picture, and of course they start off more obscure, and then at the end it's like, all right, well, if you don't get it by this last one, then you just straight up will never get it, kind of a thing. And so they did do one for Beverly Hills Cop, which I got on the first guess. And it was a scene from, and this is like, you can't really go back and play the old ones, so I'm just going to say, but it's like, a scene from the very beginning where it's like the truck chase. And, it's like, if you know, but then like once you get past it and you see Eddie Murphy wearing the Tiger's jacket, then it's like, oh yeah, I think this is that Beverly Hills Cop movie or something. Or if you've only seen it one time, a long time ago, then it's like, oh, right, yeah. But I was very happy to get that one on one. And then, there was another one. Dan, what movies were you just mentioning?
Oh, In the Line of Fire.
We were talking about Jurassic. Air Force One.
Air Force One.
So Air Force One, there was the first one I wasn't too sure about, but then the second one was something about like the rear like hatch on like, it was like an airplane control, and then it was like, oh yeah, well, that's got to be Air Force One. And then the next photo was the plane, and it's, President of the United States of America or whatever on it. So, anyway, it's a fun game. I enjoy it. It's very low stakes. I don't think that it records a streak at all. So there's no like pressure to, keep a streak going.
Right. Okay. Oh, good. Yeah. That's part of it. I can't handle the pressure on Wordle when I get down to my 6th guess.
Ugh. It's brutal.
I mean, hey, it doesn't happen that often, but when it does, it's painful.
Well,
yes.
So, in order for us to talk about what we're going to be doing on our next episode, Dan, do you want to give a little bit of backstory?
Yes. So, I hope I should feel like I should have mentioned this earlier, but as a public school teacher in Seattle, I am currently on strike. Seattle educators are on strike because Seattle Public Schools is unfairly kind of insisting that we overcrowd our classrooms and put students in our classrooms who need more support, and putting them into large classes without adequate teacher support. And we're kind of saying, enough is enough, and demanding that we have smaller class sizes, better staffing, special ed staff to support those students in those classes. So that's pretty much why we're striking. There's a few reasons, but that's the big one. Is we kind of want to be able to do our jobs to the best of our abilities and not just be a drop off and have a classroom of 40 kids, and which is really
40
kids. Yeah. You could have a class of 40 kids in it, and you have a few kids who have they get special ed services. They're probably like a full-size class, like a full large classroom is a large class. It's not going to be good for them anyway. So when you're kind of faced with the position where if you continue to do your job, you're sending the message that the unfair conditions under which you're being placed are okay, and the powers that be get that message. You kind of have no choice but to strike, and it's what we did, and it's what the Newsies did.
Yes. Back in I forget what year it takes place. Back in the 1920s or 30s. I want to say during the Great Depression. I think it was the 30s.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know when the Great Depression was. I'm not 100% sure when Newsies takes place. But yeah, so in honor and respect to the labor movement, not just educators, but all organized labor who are willing to stand up and demand fair and safe working conditions. We're gonna do Newsies because that's gonna be a fun one, starring Academy Award winners Christian Bale and Robert Duvall, and we get to see Anne Margaret again. It's going to be a very different type of role than she had in Magic. We're going to see Bill Pullman. We're going to see Max Casella. Yes. Mm-hmm. Good old Vinny Del Pino from Disney. Yeah. So it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to revisiting this one. I haven't seen it in a long time. Yeah, it's been a while. I'm going to try to get my daughter to watch it with me. Yeah, she'll like it. It's a musical. Usually that's when kids, get into it. So, we'll see. We'll see how she takes to it. But looking forward to watching Newsies. Hopefully not having the King of New York song stuck in my head like it is right now. Okay. Well, on that note, Dan, as you are escaping the FBI, I wish you a good journey. Good journey.